You know that in our culture, the big annual day for gift giving is on Christmas. However, in many other cultures, the big day for gift giving is not Christmas, but rather it's today's feast, Epiphany. In many countries, they give gifts on Epiphany because when the wise men came to see the newborn baby Jesus in Bethlehem, they opened their treasure boxes and they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What I would like to do today as we celebrate the Feast of the Epiphany is to explore the concept of a gift exchange. And we're going to explore three different gift exchanges. First of all, the one that took place at Epiphany. Secondly, the gift exchange that happens in a Catholic Mass. And thirdly, your own life. So first of all, this experience of the Epiphany was a gift exchange. First of all, God gives the gift of himself by being born in Bethlehem. Then the wise men respond to God's gift by giving their own gifts of gratitude to God. Their gifts weren't really very practical when you're thinking about a baby gift, but they were highly symbolic. The gold symbolizes royalty. It represents the fact that these kings are acknowledging that this newborn baby Jesus is actually a king, the King of the Jews. Then the gift of frankincense symbolizes the worship of God. I'm sure you've been in many masses where we use incense as a symbol of our prayers rising up to God like the smoke of the incense is rising up in the air. That's what frankincense symbolizes, the worship of God. And so these men, in giving frankincense to the baby, are acknowledging that this baby Jesus is divine. He is worthy of incense. Then myrrh. Myrrh is used in funerals and in burial rites in the ancient world. It symbolizes the fact that someday this child will die and his death is going to be very important for the whole human race. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, symbolizing royalty, symbolizing divinity, and symbolizing that the death of this person, this baby Jesus, is going to be a significant death for humanity. So that's how Epiphany is a gift exchange. It starts with God's gift, and then it's these three wise men giving gifts back to God. Now let's explore how the Mass is a gift exchange. Every time the Catholic Mass is celebrated, there's a gift exchange going on. It starts from the fact that everything that we have is a gift from God. From the gifts that God has given us, we offer them back to God in gratitude in the offertory part of the Mass. The offertory is us giving back to God some portion of the gifts that God has given to us. The bread and the wine that we bring up and we place on the altar represent us. All of our gifts and talents, all that God has given us, we're giving it back to God. And God accepts the gifts that we offer him. And then in the Eucharistic prayer, God transforms those gifts into something more glorious. That bread and wine that we place on the altar and we offer up to the Lord in thanksgiving, they become the body and blood of Christ. They are transformed by the action of the Holy Spirit. Then God gives those transformed gifts back to us, and he gives us the gift of himself when we receive him in Holy Communion. So in the Mass, God accepts the gifts of our own selves, which actually were given to us by him, and then he transforms us in the Mass, renewing us and healing us and fortifying us. And then at the end of the Mass, from that celebration, God sends us forth, back into the world to give of ourselves in loving service to others. So in so many ways, there's a back and forth action of gift giving between God and human beings who participate in the Catholic Mass. Now let's explore that third experience of gift giving that is your own life. All that you have, all that you are, is a gift from God. And God entrusts his precious gifts to you for a while so that you can take care of them. and then return them back to God with increase. So what we need to do on a regular basis is accept the gifts that God gives us with gratitude. And we need to remember who they came from. And then, what do we do with those gifts that God gives us? We develop them, we increase them, we multiply them, we build on what God gives us, and then we return them back to God with increase. So you think about, on this Feast of the Epiphany, what are the gifts that you want to present to Jesus on this Epiphany? The wise men gave him gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What do you give back to Jesus on this Epiphany? You might, for example, choose to give God the best of your time. Or perhaps you give God the best of yourself and your personal energies. God deserves the very best of your life, not just the table scraps of your life. What you might give to God on this Feast of the Epiphany as a decision as you begin this new year is that you give back to God the first fruits of your material possessions. Not just leftovers or spare change now and then, but you choose to be a good steward, planning your giving, returning to God through your church or through other charities, the first fruits of the material possessions that God has given you in this life. So you think about, on this Feast of the Epiphany, starting a new year, a new leaf, turning a new leaf in your life. What is going to be your gift back to God? In our competitive and consumeristic society, we're tempted to measure the greatness of our life by what we acquire. A big house, a big car, a big bank account. In some people's minds, that proves that they are important people. However, what's more important, and the true measure of our greatness as human beings, is not what we acquire, instead, is what we give away. You think about those wise men. For what are those men remembered in history? They're not remembered for what they acquired. They're not remembered for what they possessed. They're remembered for what they gave away. That's how you remember those guys, what they gave away. St. Paul says in the second reading of the Mass today, "You have heard of the stewardship of God's grace that was given to me for your benefit." God gives you personal gifts. God gave Paul personal gifts. He made Paul a steward of those gifts. A steward is a caretaker of something that's entrusted to them that actually belongs to someone else. The gifts belong to God, and God entrusts them to Paul to put them to good use for the benefit of others. And the same is true with the gifts that God has given to you. Your life of Christian stewardship is a gift exchange. It starts with what God gives you. And just like the wise men at the Epiphany, and just like the gift exchange of the Eucharist, you give thanks to God what you have received, and then you decide how you're going to give it back. In a proper understanding of Christian stewardship, we don't give our gifts to God or to other people in order to win something back. We give our gifts to God and others in response of gratitude for what God has already given to us. That's what good stewardship is all about. And I hope that in this new year, 2021, you and I can be better stewards, living every day with a beautiful, grateful spirit of Christian stewardship. And remember, you have only one life to live. And that one life that you have is completely God's gift to you. And what you do with your life is your gift back to God.